Okay, so if you've been anywhere online recently, you've seen it. The absolute explosion of AI-generated images. And right along with it, this huge, fierce debate has kicked off. A conversation that honestly gets to the very heart of what we even think creativity is. So today, we're going to dig into one of the most interesting arguments in that whole debate.
At the center of this entire firestorm, it all really boils down to one single super controversial question. And your answer to it probably says a whole lot about how you see art itself.
I mean, is it really art? Can a string of text that you type into a machine, which then spits out a breathtaking image, can that truly be the same as a painting that someone spent months, maybe years, painstakingly creating? That's the big question, and we're about to explore one source's fascinating and pretty provocative answer.
Yeah, the source we're looking at today, it doesn't pull any punches. Its answer is a very confident, yes, of course it can be art. But how do they back that up? Well, the argument starts by completely reframing our whole idea of what an artist actually does. You see, this perspective isn't really about defending the machine. It's about redefining the human's role in this whole creative process.
So take a look at this definition. Notice what's not there? There's no mention of a paintbrush or a chisel or a camera. Nope. Instead, it focuses entirely on the stuff that happens inside your head. The thought, the imagination, and that drive to bring a vision to life, using whatever tool you can get your hands on.
So, you can basically break this down into 3 simple steps, right? First, you have the idea. That's the thinking part. Then, you see it in your mind's eye. That's the imagining. And finally, you actually make the thing, the implementation. According to this view, the tool you use for that last part is way less important than those first 2 crucial steps.
And this brings us to a really big question, doesn't it? If art is mostly about the thought and the vision that comes before you ever touch a tool, then how much should we really care about how hard that tool is to use?
Okay, this is where things get really interesting, because this is where the source takes on the #1 argument you always hear against AI art. This idea that it's just too easy to be real art.
And you can really see the 2 sides of the coin here. On one hand, you have that classic idea that art is tied to effort, to skill, to the struggle with a physical tool. But on the other hand, you have the source saying, nope, you're looking at the wrong thing. The real value isn't in the physical difficulty, but in the intellectual difficulty, the quality of the thought behind the work.
And boom, there it is. That's the core of this whole argument. It's not trying to claim that using AI is hard. It's making the much bolder claim that difficulty was never the right way to measure art in the first place.
But hold on, this isn't just a free pass for anything and everything an AI spits out. The source makes a really important distinction here. And this is where the argument gets, well, it gets smart.
So the crucial point is that you can use any tool without thinking, right? You can mindlessly snap a photo with a camera. You can just throw paint at a canvas for no reason. The tool itself is never the problem. It's the lack of thought behind it that is.
And this is a perfect example of what that means. Just typing a cat, that's random. It takes basically 0 imagination. But crafting the prompt on the right, wow. To do that, you need to know about art history, about Rembrandt, about lighting techniques like chiaroscuro. You need to have this very specific imaginative scene already built in your head. That, the argument goes, is the thinking. That is the imagining.
This quote just nails it. It brings the whole thing home. If art requires thinking, and a human is doing that thinking, then of course you can make thoughtful art with AI. It puts all the responsibility and all the credit for the artistry right back onto the human operator.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway? According to this source, where does the art part of AI art actually live?
Well, from this viewpoint, it all comes down to these 3 things. 1, art isn't an object, it's a process that starts in our heads. 2, we should probably stop confusing how hard a tool is to use with actual artistic merit. And 3, the real way to measure art is by the depth and originality of the thought behind it. And that leaves us with a pretty mind-bending question to chew on, doesn't it? If the real art is in the careful crafting of an idea, in the vision, in the detailed instruction, then who's the artist? Is it the human writing the prompt? Is the AI just a super advanced paintbrush? Or are we looking at something totally new, a kind of collaboration we don't even have a word for yet? Now that's something to think about.